Is astrology a bunch of bull? It might be, but one thing it's definitely not is a New Age Western phenomenon. The act of star mapping goes back tens of thousands of years and is closely linked to astronomy. Babylonian astrology is one of the first evidence that we have for the astrological cycles of time. Now, this was closely linked to the way that the ancients used to view the sky, our placement in time. It's closely linked to time tracking and, as I had mentioned, astronomy. But then naturally, as humans do, they started to link characteristics and roles to each of those. This is a time in Mesopotamia where they believed in polytheistic traditions, in the sense that there were many gods, and often those archetypes that could be seen in the sky via the constellations and the planets were attributed characteristics depending on what was happening on Earth at that time when those certain things were being shown. It all logically actually makes a lot of sense. But what's even more interesting is how it isn't just in Mesopotamia that we're finding proof of ancient astrology. We're seeing it with the Vedic traditions in India, in Mesoamerican traditions, from the Mayans to the Aztecs. In African traditions, they had their own form of astrology that's been used for thousands of years, and in Chinese traditions as well, before later moving on to Greece and Rome by sort of Western conquest. It was only in the 17th century where astrology was then deemed as a pseudoscience. So why did essentially all civilizations around the world come up with the same sort of thing? Well, it's one of the ways that we've been able to understand our world, although now in our day and age we don't really stargaze and most of us can't even see more than 5 stars. But back then it was a very different sky that they would see, and very different earthly actions taking place that they would then try to attribute meaning to. There was a sense of divine will and divine power, fate. This was a time where we had magi's and alchemists and different kinds of things on this world. Many Eastern cultures, like the Indians, still use astrology to make huge decisions in their life, whether it's who they're going to marry, whether they're going to open a business or not at that certain time. They still seek the stars to get answers, which is beautiful. Now, I'm a huge fan of Carl Jung, and what interests me is how obsessed he was with astrology. He thought that it could help him understand the psyche, and it very well complemented his research into the archetypes. When you overlap the archetypes with the 12 zodiac signs, you'll see there are huge similarities between them, as are the characteristics with many ancient traditions across the world. Astronomically and astrologically speaking, we are slowly exiting the age of Pisces and into the age of Aquarius. The age of Pisces was all about dualities, good and bad, dark and light, the yin and the yang, and we have been seeing that play out for a good 2,000 years on this earth. With the cosmic energies transitioning out of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, we're going to be seeing a lot more unity, breaking of the status quo, revolution, and what some people may call the second coming, some others might call enlightenment, but everyone has a name for the era. So what have we learned? Astrology goes further back than probably most of us knew or thought of. On a macro level, we've attempted to criticize and disregard astrology and spirituality. However, the great task of this coming era of Aquarius is to unite them with science. And on a micro level, achieving a state of non-binary within ourselves, uniting our hearts with our minds, and not being pulled too far in either direction, which is where extremism creeps in. I'll end with a quote by Carl Jung. We are born at a given moment, in a given place, and like vintage years of wine, we have the qualities of the year and of the season in which we are born.